Not been released, but as you can imagine, just an awful situation unfolding outside Oak Ridge High School this morning. We do have a crew at the scene, and we will continue to have updates for you at clickorlando.com, as well as coming up tonight on the evening news starting at News 6 at 4. Another just awful story that was developing from overnight. A Clearwater ferry collided with a boat, and investigators are now trying to piece together exactly what happened. This happening on the west side of the state of Florida. We are expecting to get more information about this, but we do know that one person is dead and several other people were hurt after police are calling a hit and run on the water. Now, investigators say a boat crashed into a ferry that was carrying 45 people, and then that boat left the scene. As News 6's Mark Lehman explains, the big question now is if that boat's operator will be found and face any charges.
There was a lot of injuries, and I don't know, a lot of craziness happening all at once.
Witnesses say it happened in an instant. Dozens of people were on board a ferry near the Memorial Bridge in Clearwater when another boat seemingly came out of nowhere.
All of a sudden we hear the first mate yelling, hey, 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 and then we look back behind us, and this big yacht just came through the boat.
Police say the boat that hit the ferry then took off from the scene, leaving behind several people hurt.
We ended up having 6 trauma alerts with 2 people flown to the hospital because of the severity of their injuries.
Officials say one person on the ferry later died from their injuries. Now the U.S. Coast Guard and Florida Fish and Wildlife are investigating how all of this happened.
And how fast they were going, like how that is even logically possible, that they hit and were able to just get off like that.
Awful situation happening there in Clearwater. We are expecting a live news conference to give us an update on this investigation. That is expected to take place at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we will stream that for you at clickorlando.com and our YouTube page. We are going to take a very quick break, and we'll be right back with more news right after the break. Welcome back to Take 6. I'm News 6 anchor Lisa Bell, and we are streaming live on clickorlando.com and our News 6 Plus streaming app. Now, we know we are just days away from the opening of Epic Universe. That's Universal's newest theme park. But of course, before Disney and Universal, there were several other theme parks that helped pave the way here in Central Florida. So News 6's Bridget Ellison joins us now because, Bridget, you recently took a stroll down memory lane to find some of these theme parks that were here before some of the bigger names popped up here in Central Florida.
I learned so much in the process of this research, Lisa. And, we talked to Dr. Clark a lot, Dr. Jim Clark a lot about politics, but he is such a historian. And so one of his latest books is Lost Attractions. So we started with him. He even told us memories of being a little boy and some of the things that he liked to see when they would, go on trips. And so in the 60s, as Disney made its way into the area, there was an explosion of more theme parks, but the original old Florida experiences really centered around the state's natural beauty. So we talked to Dr. Clark about all of that and took a look down memory lane of lost attractions in Florida.
Florida must lead the nation in lost attractions.
In one of his latest books, Lost Attractions of Florida,
That didn't make it either.
Dr. Jim Clark documents some of the state's first tourist attractions.
The big attraction in Orlando was a tree called the Senator out in Seminole County. People would come from hundreds of miles away to see this giant tree, and that was tourism in Orlando.
Big Tree Park in Longwood opened in 1927 with the Senator as the main attraction. Touted as the largest and oldest bald cypress in the world, the Senator was estimated to be 3,500 years old. In 2012, what was left of the iconic tree burned down as the result of arson. Today, this is all that's left. And many of the original attractions in Florida focused on its natural beauty, such as trees and springs. But wildlife was also a big draw.
The sunken gardens, so many gardens.
Whether it was bears and ostriches.
Ostrich races used to be big in Florida. Wow. Did you know you can ride an ostrich?
I don't think I'd want to.
I don't either.
Or alligators.
Gators, there's the secret. There just aren't a lot of gators in New York. And so that's the attraction, and it's live animals, it's live people, and so you get to get up close and see the alligators.
I want to say just a word about the site of our Florida project.
Then in the 1960s, Clark says Disney set off a surge of new Central Florida attractions.
And the thinking was people would spend 1 or 2 or 3 days at the Magic Kingdom and then have another 4 or 5 days of vacation. So let's build a park for that time.
They built so many different parks. So next week, I'll take a look at some of those parks that used to be here, but now there's something else there. And that list is pretty long. But we should also mention that a lot of the originals are still open in some way, shape, or form today. So I added a link to the bottom of this story on clickorlando.com, Lisa, where people can still get a list of things they can go check out now. We talk about Bach Tower. We talk about Citrus Tower. Silver Springs was one of the first natural springs people flocked to starting in the 1880s.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
And
You
Gatorland
don't think
is so old. Did you know how old? When did just
I
guess
have
a year when you think Gatorland opened?
Oh, I don't know. I
guess.
mean, obviously Disney's came around in the 60s, so maybe 1950, 40, I don't know.
49.
Okay. And
Yeah.
but you do not think that. Certainly I've
No.
been to Gatorland many times.
Right.
It seems
And
like
that's the secret sauce to keep growing, to keep evolving.
yeah.
And so
Well, and you
that
kind
made
of think a
big
lot
difference.
of places like that came after Disney to try and cash in on the success of
Right.
Disney or
Everybody
even,
did.
Right. And I'm old school though. I love those, nature parks, getting
Historic
outside.
feel.
Yeah. And certainly you do know that a lot of people come to Disney or Universal and then try and spend a few days at the beach. So that's always nice.
Right.
But those other places like the Senator that you're talking about that you don't necessarily correlate with Florida, I love that. So
I know. And he talked about how he's, part of a dying breed that remembers coming here just to see the Senator. People would come from so far just to really enjoy, the beautiful nature aspects of the state, whether it was that tree or, like you said, the beaches and the natural springs, those glass bottom boat tours,
Yeah.
And so, Silver Springs is still open to this day, and many of our parks that are focused on the springs still open today. So there's just so many sides of the state to enjoy, and that's why it is one of the top states in tourism, along with places like California, Texas, but we definitely are a leader for the United States in tourism, and that's why.
Well, I'm looking forward to finding out about some new places to check out with my kids. We always, of course, hear about the big theme parks, but some of these other hidden gems are really cool. I'm just sad, too, of course, we were all working here back when the Senator burned down.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. And at the time, I didn't realize that that was even in our backyard and had the history that it had. So, but it's
Well, I have
nice.
another old tree, not as old as the Senator, but we
Okay.
got another old tree at Florida's very first theme park. And it's technically Florida's first theme park. It opened in 1936, Cypress Gardens. So that will
Yeah.
be one of the ones that we feature in the next piece next Monday.
That's good. And to put that into perspective, when you think about that, 3,500 years old, I mean, before Christ, right? Like that's how old it was. And it was right here. And
So
at least
sad.
there's a little space where you can go and take a look at that. So
Yes.
fascinating stuff, Bridget. And I look forward to hearing more about that. Florida is just such an interesting state
It
with so
is.
much history. All right. Thank you, Bridget Ellison. We'll be checking back in with you more throughout the day. We do want to switch gears, though, and talk about a story that our Matt Austin has been working out. It's called The Bank of Mom and Dad. So it's no surprise that money is tight right now for most people. But it seems apparently a lot of parents are now forking over cash to help their adult children make ends meet. New numbers show parents are spending an average of $18,000 a year just to help their kids out. But as News 6's Matt Austin found out, it's coming at a steep price. Many parents are dipping into their retirement savings to make this possible.
I think it really solely rests on how the economy has changed.
Jude Wilson, a certified wealth strategist with Centris Financial, says more and more of his clients are coming to him with the same concern.
I need to support my son or my daughter. Where can I access funds to give them some support?
Wilson says for a lot of families, their retirement fund is turning into their kids' emergency fund.
So it's doing more damage to them in their future, but they've kind of postponed that because the immediate need is, I want to make sure that my son or my daughter is okay now.
In fact, a Savings.com survey of roughly 1,000 U.S. adults found working parents contribute 2 times more to their children than to their own retirement accounts.
So this is dramatically impacting their, financial future.
Beth Klung-Payabal is an analytics manager with Savings.com. Their survey shows half of all parents with adult children provide regular financial support, and only about a third plan to cut off that support in the next 2 years.
I think they just don't know how to cut the strings.
Wilson says the key is to create a timetable.
There has to be a beginning and an end. So create a contract with your adult child. It may not be legally binding, but at least psychologically, it gives them the sense that this is not an indefinite support.
Finding an end date is especially important for parents who are already retired.
If we don't take care of this problem, that might be going back to work, which nobody wants to hear that.
Matt Austin, News 6.
Just some fascinating stuff. And Matt Austin, of course, will be here tonight to talk more about that. Adult parents helping their adult children make ends meet. Certainly a sign of the times that we're living in right now. So we will be back here for News 6 at 4 this afternoon, and we will continue to stream updates for you here on clickorlando.com and the News 6 Plus app, as well as that press conference that we mentioned earlier about that ferry crash over in Clearwater, where a boat crashed into it. At least one person has died in that. Several others were injured. We are expecting that news conference to get underway at 3 p.m. Again, we will be streaming that for you on clickorlando.com and our News 6 YouTube page, as well as the News 6 Plus streaming app. I'm News 6 anchor Lisa Bell. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us on Take 6 this afternoon. We hope you have a great day.